Greetings to each and every one. I'm Necha Israel. Welcome back to NOLA by Nature, NOLA Narrative. And today we're going to be discussing that good old fleur de lis, the flower de elite, the elite lily. Now, a lot of you saw it in New Orleans, where we at, NOLA by Nature, and you probably saw it all around the world also. But we're going to be discussing and getting to a little more in-depthness on the fleur de lis. So y'all hang around, stay tuned, and check it out. I'm Necha Israel. This is NOLA by Nature, NOLA Narrative, and we about to work. The fleur de lis. It's a flower that's named initially, we get it from the French monarchs. Fleur de lis, a French word. So initially we know it from being French. And it was first used in France in the 12th century on the shields. And it's rooted in French history. And the first colors of that shield it was using was red and white and blue and gold. And there are specific reasons for that. Also following that, the English started using it on their coat of arms following the French. So it became like a European monarch or nobility thing. Now, the fleur de lis, as most people know, it's a water lily, and it's called the Iris pseudodecorus. The fleur de lis is the most depicted symbol on planet Earth. Once again, along with the sun, stars, and pyramids, the fleur de lis is the most depicted symbol on planet Earth. Now, we all know that fleur de lis is a French word. In New Orleans, we have this saying where some people like the fleur de lis, some people don't like the fleur de lis. Some people say, oh, it represents slavery and slaves were branded with it. It's no good and we shouldn't use it. And, they have their opinions about it. Others, on the other hand, look at it for its historical significance, especially if you're of another persuasion. This definitely has a significance to monarch and control. Now, the fleur de lis being one of the most depicted and wide used symbols in America, in Africa even, in Europe, even in Asia. The fleur de lis is being depicted. For example, you can see the fleur de lis in all forms of culture, secular and spiritual. For example, the fleur de lis is used widely in Gothic and Satanic use. You see the fleur de lis depicted. Catholic religions, you see the fleur de lis depicted. In military and police, you see the use of the fleur de lis. Also, in sports organizations, like our teams down here, you also see the fleur de lis in use. Now, even in industries and product, you see the use of the fleur de lis. Widespread, unlike any other symbol. Now here's the thing about the fleur de lis. It has no known copyright. It can be used by anyone or group for profit. So no one can copyright it, but you can use it in your copyright. That's amazing. That's the only symbol that has no known copyright, but can be used by anyone or group for profit. That's the fleur de lis. Now, I'm gonna slow this down, let y'all marinate on some of this. We're going to go into part 2 on the flower de elite, the fleur de lis. I'm Necha Israel. This is NOLA by Nature, NOLA Narrative, and we'll be back in a few. All right, y'all. Back in a couple of nanoseconds. And we're still discussing the fleur de lis, the flower de elite, the elite lily, the elite flower. Now I'm about to get into the true origins of this ancient symbol. As I've shown, it's been around in use in our society in various ways for a long time. But in regards to these ancient cultures and what you're seeing behind me, you're seeing in the photos, is that this image of this sign and symbol goes back to over 4,000 years. If you're a person who believed that Mesopotamia was the first civilization, well, you find the fleur de lis in their kings and their gods depicted. The fleur-de-lis is there, for example, like with the god Dagon, who was one of the founders of Sumeria, Mesopotamian civilization, agriculture, crops, and taught them all these different things. As you see, just like the Saints football helmet, at the top of Dagon helmet is the symbol of the fleur-de-lis. And once again, some people subscribe that Mesopotamian Sumeria is the first civilization. So if that is so, you see the first civilization, the king or their god with a fleur-de-lis on his helmet, coming out of water, fish, just, as a fish person. And I say that fish thing because it shows this relation to the Pope, and how the Pope will wear that crown that people say shaped like a fish mouth. And that fleur-de-lis is heavily used by the Vatican, the Church, and the Catholic, as I show. So we ain't gonna go too deep into that, but the ancient origins does trace back to ancient Kemet, ancient India, ancient Asia, ancient America, all these grand cultures on earth. Now, why? To end this, we're gonna go into a scientific possible reason why all these ancient cultures on planet Earth used the fleur-de-lis over 4,000 years ago, prior to Christ, prior to the formation of the Catholic Church, prior to the formation of the Roman empires and the monarchies, before the creation of America, even New Orleans. I'm talking about the Taurus field. Now, do your science, go look that up, see the Taurus field, check out the images behind me, and we're going to be coming back with some more information showing how the fleur-de-lis even connects to the early electromagnetic pull and protection of the earth. It's a giant fleur-de-lis. Gonna stop it right there. And I'm Netcha Israel. This is NOLA by Nature, NOLA Narrative. Hope y'all enjoy. Check it out. We got a lot more content coming. And we out. This is the fleur-de-lis. Peace.